Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Amorim's next signing is confirmed by Fabrizio Romano. Also, is it time we gave INEOS credit? I will be answering that question too and a few others as well because it's an 8 o'clock show, so you drive it as I always say. But we have got some big stuff to get into to start off with. Love an 8 o'clock show. Hope you're all doing well. You're very welcome whether you're watching live or not. Get your comments in. So Fabrizio Romano has basically confirmed, well, he's confirmed two things actually. He's just confirmed that Real Madrid are interested in Adam Wharton for next summer. Other clubs are also interested as well. So does that make Manchester United's job easier or harder? Let us know there. But this is what primarily I was going to start the show on. And I would pose the question to you. How do you read this? Because how I read it might be very, very different to you. A new midfielder will join Manchester United in 2026 January. It remains to be seen if a top player like Baleba is the deal will be difficult or an opportunity in the market like Conor Gallagher. And this is coming in from Fabrizio Romano. United are sticking to the idea of adding a midfielder in January. It is unsure whether that will be a player of the profile of Baleba or an opportunity player available instead. I mean, how do you read that? It's literally virtually a week to the day that Manchester United's transfer window closed without a midfielder. And here we are a week later, Fabrizio Romano saying that Man United will be signing a midfielder in January. How do you feel about that? I look at it and go, well, I mean, it sort of answers the question I'm going to answer in a few minutes about whether I think INEOS are doing a good job or not. Because if we are saying now, in January, we're going to sign a midfielder, then clearly we failed in the market because we didn't get one. You know, I liken it to an analogy like this. We didn't get a midfielder. We really wanted one. We're going to get one in January. You know, that's like being in the ocean with sharks swimming around you. And, you know, the rescue plane flies overhead and throws down a line, misses and says, "Don't worry, we do want to save you, but we'll be back in January." Can we survive until they come back? And that's going to be the question, isn't it? Because really, we should have rescued ourselves last week and brought a midfielder in. If we're so desperate to get one, why are we waiting until January? Is it meant to make us feel better? Because it can't be part of the plan. Look, I feel better knowing that the club want to bring a midfielder in, but every Tom, Dick and Harry and Sally knows that. See what I did there? Every Tom, Dick and Harry is very sexist, so I put Sally in as well. But the point is, seriously, like, I am encouraged that the club want to bring a midfielder in. And I'm encouraged that Fabrizio Romano is talking about it with his reputation. But then it does make me think, like, you know, we're clearly not strong in that area going into a very big 4 months. And it does make you panic a little bit that, you know, we knew we needed a midfielder. We're going to get a midfielder in January, or we're going to look at it again in January. But hey, September, October, November, December comes first. And what if we don't get one in January because the market's not easy, you know? So I don't know. I don't know what I think about it really, because, you know, people will say, well, look, Fabrizio himself is using the name Baleba. And Conor Gallagher gets referenced again. And Conor Gallagher would love to come to Manchester United. Of course he would. He wants to go to the World Cup. Might not be getting game time in Madrid, come back to the Premier League. Of course he would. Might fancy Palace as well. But I don't even trust that we'll get to January. I mean, part of me thinks, is this just strategic spin to make people think if we can get by till January, then we'll get a midfielder, and then they'll go, oh, we couldn't get one. Oh, we'll just get by till the summer now. So is it a way of sort of halving the sentence without a midfielder? You know, it's a bit like, you know, going to prison for 8 months. You will go to prison for not having a midfielder. But in January, you can get out on good behaviour. You get to January, yeah, you actually weren't that good, so you can do the full term. So maybe we won't get anyone in January. Maybe it's just a bit of a carrot that dangles there and then gets pulled away because there's no value in the market or there's no players. So there is an inevitability that we will bring a midfielder in. But I suppose I answer the question, what do I think about this story? I mean, I saw it this afternoon. I thought we'll definitely lead on that on the 8 o'clock show because I want to know what you think. But comes in from Fabrizio, very, very credible. Man United will go for a midfielder in January. Two things. Do I trust that? No. Also, why didn't it happen last week? So that's my thought on it. I suppose in a sentence, it doesn't help me now. You know? Oh, you're going to rescue me. Yeah, I've got sharks biting on my knob. I meant to say toes. It wouldn't be pleasurable either way. When are you going to rescue me, you know? Neil Davies says, I call it spin. Ollie says it's a bad analogy. It's a brilliant analogy, mate. It's an absolutely brilliant analogy because we're left in the sea hoping we don't get eaten in the next 4 months while the rescue apparently is coming in January. It's absolutely relevant. Absolutely relevant. Will we survive? Will we survive with it? Will we survive without it? I don't know. What is Bruno? I'm not talking about Bruno this early in the show. Bloody hell. God. Mods, do your job. I'm not talking about bloody Bruno in the midfield. It wasn't even about Bruno in the midfield. Sorry, I will talk about Bruno in the midfield. I'm not talking about Bruno and bloody Saudi again. God. Why are we talking transfers already, Mank Derby on Sunday, says Michael? Because Fabrizio Romano literally said 3 hours ago that Man United are going to sign a midfielder in January, so it's probably the biggest story of the day. But if you want to talk about the Manchester Derby, come back on Thursday, because I'm not previewing the Manchester Derby on a Monday night. I don't think anybody wants that. Echo the Dolphin and is on his way to save you. Who remembers that? Great game. Great game. I hope they prove our doubts are irrelevant and they actually get a good midfielder like Baleba in January, says Afik. But you know what? What relevance is that, mate? I mean, you must be the sort of person that lives off this sort of rubbish story. I mean, this is exactly why Fabrizio probably puts it out and the club give him the information. Because there's people like Afik who go, I hope they prove our doubts wrong and sign a midfielder in January. I don't give a shit about January, to be honest. I'm more interested in, well, actually, I agree with Michael. I'm more interested in the Manchester Derby on Sunday, which isn't even in the middle of September. Why would I give a toss about a midfielder in January? Imagine worst case scenario, we lose about 10 games because of the midfield shit. Amorim's gone, mate. Forget January, Amorim's gone. Midfielder's going to be the last. I mean, I suppose that is the great point, isn't it? If I was to be excited about a midfielder in January, why? You know? You're going on your dream holiday in January, but for the next 4 months, you might not make it. Like, you know, it's like that. Like, ooh, January, what have I got to do for the next 4 months? Yeah. You know, you're fighting with crocodiles. Yeah, great. So there's a chance I might not make January. Exactly. If Amorim's sacked before January, forget a midfielder. It'll be a lot more than that going on. So I know we need a midfielder, but I'm very much of the opinion, actually, I should have said it from the start, why the bloody hell are we talking about signing midfielder in January? The transfer window closed a week ago. That was your chance. Gone. Why are we talking about a midfielder in January? Great point. Great point. Why? Results will dictate our mood. How many games is it till January in the Premier League? I'd guarantee there's at least 12, maybe 15. Probably more than that, actually. I'd say by January, half of our games will have been played, so 19. We've played 3. Yeah, about 15 games. Ooh, January. It's like playing poker cards up. Why broadcast it, says Pete Phillips. Kai, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Keel Robinson says, you lot are too impatient. I think there's a fine balance on impatience, Keel. I think there is a level of impatience in the fan base, definitely. But also, I think you can be too impatient. You know, you don't want to be, you don't want to be a bloody dead snail. You know, you've got to be quite alert of what's going on at the club. Coolio says, I would like to know why people are so rude. I was just in break time in school and someone just kicked my wheelchair. Why are people rude, Mark? Society, mate. Some people are just very selfish and rude. Focus on the good people, pal. Hopefully, you'll find them in here. So, yeah, look, we'll start off on that. I now want to move on to, because it segues quite nicely into it. There was a comment on the show this morning, and I just ran out of time. And it was, do you think it's time to start giving INEOS some credit? Well, you know, there is a yes and no answer to that. Because, first of all, why are we singulating INEOS from the Glazers? Because they are only 28% stakeholders. Why are INEOS a separate entity? So I want to run a bit of a poll here and get your thoughts. How would you do this? We'll just do it like that. Do INEOS deserve more credit? Yes or no? And if you've got any topics you want to get into tonight, this is what the 8 o'clock show is all about. So do INEOS deserve more credit? We'll talk about that. But first of all, I just want to say, I don't actually appreciate the isolation of INEOS. Do INEOS deserve more credit? If United make a signing, the Glazers have to sign it off. If United want to sell somebody, the Glazers have to sign it off. Every big decision at that football club, the Glazers have to sign it off. They own 51% of the club, and Joel Glazer's been hands-on for years. He hasn't given that up. So making it about INEOS is always a huge error. It is Glazers and INEOS, and that's why people call it Glinios. It's not actually an insult. It's just in a way of, it's a bit like Ant and Dec. They're a double act. Laurel and Hardy. Chuckle Vision, the Chuckle Brothers. Glazers and INEOS are a joint entity, a joint enterprise. So, first of all, I would say, do Glinios deserve more credit? Not INEOS, because they work together. I think the major improvement was what I was talking about last night, and I would give credit for the removal of problematic players from the football club. This needs to continue. We've removed players that have disrespected the club, like Garnacho and others. We've also removed players that the club don't feel are part of the future. Rasmus, Anana. What we need to keep doing is that. There are other players who played last season who are still here who should be gone. Without naming names, I can think of 3. That needs to continue, but it's a step in the right direction because, as I said last night, we haven't done it. So that is a positive. The negative is we haven't signed a midfielder. And I think that's shockingly poor. So, we've just spent 5 minutes talking about apparently we're going to go for one in January. Well, boo bloody who. We should have gone for one last week. So, that's an X for me. So, do INEOS deserve more credit? I sense there is a gradual movement in the right direction. It's a bit like, turning a lorry. It's a bit slow and it's a bit obvious. But I'm never going to not give a bit of credit for doing things that should be done. What I'd say is, though, it's a little bit like Michael Owen's career. Most of his goals were tap-ins. So, yeah, well done. But let's be honest. Any decent owner would be scoring these goals. So, but we've been missing them for years. So I think there is an element of what Glinios are doing, which is good, but I still think there are mistakes being made. And I think my major concern at the moment is what we're doing is too slow. I have publicised this many a time on That's Football and on here over the summer. And I think the Champions League has changed football forever. I think you could have a gradual build and get away with it, but I think everybody's just put their foot down. If Liverpool and Arsenal were driving at 60 miles an hour and Man United were like, let's steadily go through the gears and we'll catch them, maybe that was a model up until this summer. But they've just put their foot down and gone up to 90. And United are still cruising through the gears. And I'm like, my concern is we might need to change the plan a little bit to move quicker. We've desperately got to get Champions League football. And I suppose you go back to the midfielder and go, why would you not go and get the most important signing to give us that chance? So I think there is a step in the right direction. I still don't think it was the direction we needed to go in. I think we needed the reset, the debt gone, the big rich owner. But look, what do I know? Maybe I'll be wrong on that in the end. But I think we need to move quicker. I think they're doing okay. I certainly don't think I'd be screaming they're doing a great job. I think some of the things were open goals, weren't they? But look, if they back Amorim, we've got a chance. We've got a chance. Jacob says, why is Wharton on the thumbnail? Because I didn't want to put Baleba on there, really. I'll answer that question. It's a good question. I didn't want to put Baleba on there because I don't think we're going to get Baleba. So when when Romano talks about a January signing in for a midfielder, I don't think we're going to get Baleba. And I want to be wrong. I do want to be wrong, but I am also allowed to have an opinion. I don't think we're going to get Baleba because I don't think people understand that we only had £60 million and they want 100. In fact, they didn't even name a price. Man United didn't go near it because they were like, Brighton don't want to sell and we believe they're going to want the same as what they got for Caicedo. So I don't know where this £100 million ever comes from. The only way his price is going to come down is if he flops at Brighton this year. In which case, why would we go for him? So I don't think we'll even get Baleba. The reason I put Wharton on there is I think he'll be a more reasonable price. And also Real Madrid are linked to him now. So, maybe it could be another Euro. But I don't actually believe we'll get Baleba. I don't. So that's why I put Wharton and Gallagher on there. Gallagher's realistic. In January, Gallagher's realistic. Just to go to the poll, do INEOS deserve more credit? 43% of you say yes. I'd love to know why. That's your starter for 10. Tell me if you're one of the 43%. Tell us why you think they deserve more credit. I don't think they deserve more credit. I think they should have bought us a midfielder, should be moving a lot quicker. I don't think they deserve more credit. I think they should just be a bit of a watching brief, really. But, some people want to believe. I understand that. I want to believe. Bayer Leverkusen got their next coach quick. Who you think next, says JB. What does that even mean? Who do I think next for what? You can't fix 15 years of mediocrity in 3 years, Mark, says Evan Whelan. I don't know what that means either. What 3 years are you talking about? What 15 years are you talking about? A couple of weird... You might need to come back with a bit of clarity because I don't know what you're talking about 3 years. Real Madrid are considering bringing in Wharton now, says Josiah. Yeah, bit of an echo. We spoke about that at the start of the show. Thank you, pal. It's odd, says Kana Dave. They did well removing the bomb squad, then won't spend 10 or 15 on a possible midfield solution. But I like the removals, says Kana Dave. There we go, bit of an explanation. Mike JW says, evening Mark and legends. INEOS doesn't deserve any credit. The Glazers deserve nothing, but when Amorim loses his job because he wasn't back to get through the season, what credit then? This is a good point by Mike. It's a very good point. Why would I give them credit when I think that they might have set the manager up to fail? At the end of the season, if we get Champions League football, then I will reserve a portion of credit to the owners and a huge portion to Amorim. That last sentence just doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. When we're gifting out portions of who is responsible, I think they can have a little bit of credit if we have a good season. But if we have a bad season, it will be totally on them. I think that's what I would say. Are you going to put McConaughey in the matchday squad, says Toby? Some weird comments coming out tonight. You do realise he's had an injury and he probably isn't even fit. Yeah, a few weird ones tonight. Abraham says, why aren't today's players, i.e. the bomb squad, why aren't they more like Rooney? He often wanted out, but when he couldn't leave, stayed and gave his 100% on the pitch, says Abraham. I think those types of players probably don't really exist anymore, if I'm being completely honest. As I've said to you many times before, the class of 92 would have been cleaning the boots of senior players. They'd have been on, low wages as youth trainees. The modern player is in a bubble from probably 12 years of age. It's a huge industry. There's huge money. And I think a lot of these players struggle to keep their feet on the ground when they've got so many people around them trying to make a living off them. So, yeah, different world, I suppose. Different societies that you grow up in as well. You know what? I don't want to be the History Channel here, but when I grew up, I remember when we got Sky TV, 9 channels, and 4 of them were shit. 9 channels, right? I don't even know why we got it. I think we had to take on a new mortgage to get it. But I think it's because my gran and granddad had it. So we got it for the football. That's why we got it. That's why we would have got it. But it cost a lot of money. And, you know, we weren't really very wealthy. We were working class. So nobody else on our street had it. And I was I was quite famous for a little bit having that. And, you know, I had friends who didn't have a TV. You know, I used to wear the same trousers every day. And I think I only had 2 shirts. So, and I'm sure that was normal for a lot of kids growing up in the 80s and 90s. So, but nowadays, everybody's got a flat screen TV. Everyone's got Sky TV. Everyone's got a mobile phone. Like, see, everything is just much more accessible now. And I don't think many people grow up with the determination to be somebody because they haven't got it. I don't think there's a lot of no's in modern society. That doesn't mean that poverty doesn't exist. It definitely does. And we should be aware of that. But I don't really think the working class, middle class systems that used to exist in the UK exist anymore. And I don't think a lot of footballers, you know, are brought up in those types of environments anymore. So, look, I just think society's changed. I remember speaking to Paul Ince about this, and he said, you know, there's players like myself and Roy Keane, etc., who just brought up differently to the way people are brought up now. There's not a lot of those players coming through, and they earn a hell of a lot more money at a lot younger age. Maybe that's something to do with it. I don't know. I think that's more of a, you know, it's a difficult one to answer. But Red Devil says it's rubbish. I don't think it is rubbish, mate, because we've got a lot of young players that don't clean the boots of the first team. They're not on 80 quid a week on a youth training system, a YTS scheme. They're on thousands of pounds very, very young. So, you know, maybe you go and educate yourself before you start talking rubbish, because I don't do politics either. So you're probably some champagne socialist or, you know, whatever, some, you know, fence-sitting, I don't know, and you don't like it that people say society's changed. Well, massively it has. Football has changed. Youth players have changed. They're surrounded by people telling them what to do at, you know, 16, 17, 18 years of age. I don't think David Beckham had an agent at 17 or 18. It's very different, very different. And we're talking football here. I'm not talking about you and your missus or your brother or anything like that, or, you know, whether... I'm talking about... The question was about young footballers and why they don't have the hunger of a Wayne Rooney anymore. And I think the world has changed. Whole world knows we need a midfielder, says HS. Baleba is nice, but 112 million is a bit much. INEOS deserve credit for streamlining the transfer strategy. Great work, Mark. Keep it up, says HS. Thank you very much for your super chat. Mrs. Stone is here with a super chat. Says, what does INEOS need credit for? Doing their job? You know what? Just all I can think of is Roy Keane there. What? Nonsense. Credit for doing their job? Nonsense. You know what my manager says when I do my job? Great. Get on to the next task. Well, yeah, you know what? Exactly. Exactly. I do agree with you on that. I think that, look, if you know, if me and you, and I mean the collective you, were Glazers and INEOS. I'm being INEOS, you can be the Glazers, and we're working together. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'm not going to leave Old Trafford. I'm not going to sack half the workforce. So, you know, that's I'm not sanctioning that. You can do something about the fucking debt instead of sacking people. So that'd be different. Okay, take that on board. But get a director of football in, get a CEO in. Yeah, we agree on that. Open goal. Get rid of the deadwood. Yeah, we agree on that. Open goal. Sign players for the manager. Yeah. And make sure you get a midfielder. Yeah, they didn't do that either. So I think a lot of what they've done is, you know, has been good, but I wouldn't say it's wow. Even the renovation, what's it called? Even the regeneration project is based on the plans of the Glazers in 2017. So I don't think there's anything they've done that's groundbreaking, but where I give it a little bit of like praise is that it wasn't being done before. So Yeah, but we need to move a lot quicker. The midfielder gets mentioned so much, but the midfielder is so relevant because it symbolises something more than a midfielder. By not signing a midfielder, it's not just about not signing a midfielder. It's not backing the manager 100%, which needs to be done. It's not being ready for a very big season, which needed to be done. And also, it's slowing down the progress of the club when you're not getting the things we need today and you're waiting to tomorrow. Because when you go to tomorrow to get the thing we needed today, tomorrow you'll need other things as well. And then you'll miss out on them. And the chain continues. And what I mean by that is, we need a midfielder, we didn't get one. So we get a midfielder next summer, but then we don't get another position that we needed next summer, which we would have got if we'd got the midfielder this. You're always, and United are brilliant at this, we never really solve all the problems at once. We kick a few down the road, which then causes others to be kicked down the road, and you're always chasing your tail. Follow-up question. If Amorim gets sacked, who's next in line, says JB? I mean, I don't want to see Amorim getting the sack. I don't. I want to back him. I think it's the road less travelled at United, and we need to do it more often. But if Amorim walked tomorrow, I'd go for Conte. I've said that before. How do you expect us to sign a midfielder if Brighton says no? I do shake my head at your logic, says Evan. Evan is sometimes a problem in the chat. I don't know whether he's a rage baiter, a legend, or a moron. Sometimes I think all three. But on this one, I don't even think I need to answer it, Ewan, because Evan, I think people have probably answered it for me, because it's really very, very obvious. So when you say, how do you expect to sign a midfielder if Brighton says no, I shake my head at your logic. Evan, I don't want to panic you wherever you are tonight, but if United can't sign Baleba, there's probably about another 60 midfielders we could have tried to buy. I mean, there's plenty more fish in the sea, is the analogy I'm sort of thinking of. If Brighton won't sell us Baleba as a proper football club, you should probably figure out that what you want might not be available, and you might, just might, it's a bit of an out of their idea, you might just want to have some backup options that you can move for because you need a midfielder, you know? So that you shake your head at my logic. I tell you what, you're going to go dizzy. You're going to go dizzy when something harder than that comes into the chat, and trust me, it will. Josiah says, I just tuned in. Go for Stiller now. I mean, I've got Bundesliga TV rights on That's Football, so I'm quite happy that Stuttgart have kept Stiller because I want to have a good look at him this season. But I don't know enough about him to know whether he'd be a good player for Manchester United. I saw something today in the Mirror saying that we did make a late move for Stiller and Stuttgart said no. I think reading between the lines, we did make moves for midfielders in the last week or so, but we left it too late. We didn't start talking to Baleba until there was a month left in the window. I mean, you can't leave a key position to the last 4 weeks. And we wasted 2 weeks on that on Baleba, and then we're left with 2 weeks left. I don't know why we left the midfield till the last month. I really don't know. I really don't know. But when you look at it, we left it till the last month. We prioritised 2 number 10s over 1 midfielder. We may never know why that happened, but it does seem a little bit strange to me. I think they should give him the new contract now to make it clear to the fans that this manager will be backed. We need stability and time, says the Inquisition, who's been a member for 34 months. This is probably to do with the show this morning, our news show, which broke down what's going to happen with Amorim and his contract, etc. To put it into a very quick sentence, he has 1 year left on his contract at the end of this season, but we have the option of a further year beyond that. United will not be activating anything until towards the end of the season because obviously if it goes wrong, you don't want to give him a new contract, you'll sack him. If it goes really well, they want to give him a new contract, like 3 years. And if it goes okay, they'll just extend a year. So that's what's going to happen. But I don't think they should be doing anything at the moment, the Inquisition. Why would you extend him now? You'd wait until at least after Christmas to see how it's going, you know? Why are people saying we sold well? Half of them are loans, says Liam. Yes, Liam, you know, there are people out there who think we had a good summer transfer window on sales. I gave it 5.5 out of 10, 6 being average, so slightly below average. Onana is a loan deal. Rasmus is a loan deal. Rashford is a loan deal. Sancho is a loan deal. The only player we sold was Garnacho. And apparently, we did really well on sales. We've literally got 4 players coming back, worst case scenario, next summer. And we could spend that summer doing the same thing again. What if Rasmus, Rashford, Onana, and Sancho do really, really bad? They'll be back next summer, and we'll have to loan them again. So look, it's a watching brief on that one. There is good money coming in if they all go, but, you know, loan watch, I think, is really important. Anthony went as well. Sorry, Anthony went. Yeah, we got our money back on Anthony. Bobby says, January midfielder, spin just like Kenda. Thank you very much, Bobby. I'll tell you what, Bobby, I won't move on from that one so quick. You know what, Bobby, you might be onto something. Remember in the January transfer window, we didn't really buy enough. We just got Dorgu. And then as soon as the window closed, Ornstein dropped an article talking about United being in talks with Kenda. And everyone was like, well, yeah, we're going to get Kenda. Don't worry about the January transfer window. And then a month later, he's signing for Chelsea. So, once bitten, twice shy. Didn't get a midfielder a week ago. A week later, Romano. Man United are going to buy a midfielder in January. I'll believe it when I see it. Good comments coming in. Enjoying the conversation. Why not... I don't know who that is, Stephen. I would never give credit to an entity that decided to work with the Glazers and bailed them out. The club is still acting the same way, says Sheriff. Brentford gave green light for personal terms, says Shahin. Yeah, I think the Baleba story has turned into a bit of a political piece in relation to football. And what I mean by that is there's spin, there's truth, and there's confusion. United were in talks with Baleba. But apparently Brighton were never going to sell him. So why are we not getting fined for tapping up? You can't... If I'm the owner of a football club and Man United are talking to one of my best players and Ornstein and Romano are putting it out there and it's really detailed and I don't want to sell him, I'm going to the Premier League and going, look at this. Just look at it. What are you going to do about it? Thanks. Even we won't mess this one up. I'd go, I can give you 115 reasons why I think you might, but, you know, it is absolutely 4K tapping up. We don't want to sell him, so do your thing. And now we're hearing that that Brighton didn't want to sell him. So if Brighton didn't want to sell him, why would you let one of your best players get unsettled and want to go to Manchester United? Why would you let the talks happen? Because they were willing to sell him. Because Brighton are always willing to sell. Their CEO literally said about 3 weeks before, every player's got a price at this football club. So when people try and say Brighton weren't going to sell, he wasn't for sale. I know it's bullshit. You know it's bullshit. But the window's closed and I sort of like go, let them try and protect our negotiators for whatever reason. Brighton were never going to sell. Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because Brighton are a selling club. And they let us have talks with their player for 2 weeks. Why would anybody do that unless you were going to sell? The problem is we didn't get anywhere near what they wanted. Brighton refused to give a price. They wanted us to bid blind and then say, we want another 10, 15. We didn't bid. We were willing to go around 60. We knew they wanted around 100. We decided not to bid. So we wasted everybody's time, really. But there was a price. There was a price. And if you think there wasn't a price and he wasn't for sale, maybe listen back to those last few minutes, because Brighton are always willing to sell at the right price and you wouldn't let your player get unsettled. I mean, he's really unsettled. He's had a bad start to the season. I think he's been subbed off after 60 minutes twice. So why would you let your player get unsettled by a rival for no reason? Sometimes you just got to use that thing between your ears. Considering we would have been broke by Christmas, if you can believe that. INEOS haven't done bad, says Dan Campbell. Yeah, I don't think that was true, was it? But yeah, I know what you're on about. Doesn't Sancho's contract run out this summer, says AO? Yeah, but we've got the option of another year, which apparently we're going to activate. Scary. Very, very scary, that. I think it was Romano said that we're going to activate another year on Sancho. So Sancho's out of contract in the summer and Casemiro's out of contract in the summer, but they've both got a +1. So that's not a party where they can bring a friend. That's way we can activate another year on their contract and there's nothing they can do about it. So, I mean, if we activate the other year on Casemiro's contract, I'm seriously going to get a team from the NHS to go into Carrington and find the person who's done it and let's run some tests, because that will be madness. He's on ridiculous money. You can't extend him. But why would we do it with Sancho? Like, he's rubbish and he's definitely on 200 grand a week or more. Why would you give him another year on that? I think United would do it because they think they could get a transfer fee out of him. But you couldn't do that this year with a year left on his contract. So why would you do it next year? I just say let him go. Let him go. Why would you? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with that. Dean says, wouldn't it be complicated and hard to sign Baleba in the January market because he's going to be away with the African Cup of Nations? Dean, dangerous Dean. I nearly said dickhead Dean. I didn't mean that Dean. Dangerous Dean with delectable information. This is why I think when I hear Man United are going to sign a midfielder in January, my brain is not thinking Wharton or Baleba. It's thinking some loan deal from a player that's not playing who desperately needs game time. It's thinking Sabitzer. It's thinking Gallagher. It ain't thinking Baleba or Wharton. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on, Dean. We ain't going to go and splash £90 million on Baleba in January when you always overpay in January and you've got more chance of getting them cheaper in the summer. So when Romano says Man United are going to buy a midfielder in the summer, what we actually mean is we're going to loan somebody who's not getting game time at their parent club. Conor Gallagher would be my guess if we do something. But yeah, we're not going to be. I mean, we're not going to sign a player like that in January. I mean, when was the last time we spent significant money in January? Bruno, I suppose. And also, I imagine Brighton would say again, he's not for sale, or we want £100 million, whichever one you want to believe. He will have just spent a month in Africa at the AFCON. So, yeah, it'd be a difficult deal to do. I'm obviously referring to Baleba, says Evan Whelan. I'm not Jesus Christ. He says, I'm obviously referring to Baleba, Jesus Christ. I'm not Jesus. Evan, I don't know where it's going wrong for you tonight, but I'm definitely not Jesus. He says, I'm obviously referring to Baleba, Jesus Christ. I'm not Jesus. Wow. Any signs we're in a strong financial position, says Vic. No. Completely the opposite. We're in about £800 million of debt. We're not in Europe. And we've probably borrowed again. But we can be in a good financial position if we get into the Champions League. Like, this is where we need to be. We need to be in the Champions League. Absolutely. Agado, do. Push pineapple, shake a tree. Agado, do. I love that. Do you think INEOS succeeded in lowering the wage bill, says Air? Look, I've read Swedish Rumbles mention this, and I completely agree with it. You know, this lowering of the wage bill, why do people run down the shops and buy a packet of bloody tissues about this? And I don't mean to cry. What is it about a football fan that gets obsessed about lowering the wage bill? Like, last time I checked, our wage bill is lower than teams that are better than us. Now, I think we're about 3rd or 4th now on wages paid. You get what you pay for. Like, I don't care about having the... I never cared about our wage bill when we were winning things. Our wage bill was only an issue for me because we were playing absolute shit, stupid money. Like, giving Anthony ridiculous money. What was that all about? Sancho, ridiculous. You know, Casemiro, ridiculous. I don't care. I said this about Osman, didn't I, in the summer? Some people were like, well, no, we can't give him 300 grand a week. And I was like, if Osman can come into this club and score 30 Premier League goals, I'll give him 300 grand a week. I don't care. If I'm getting what I'm paying for, pay the bloody money. But it seems to have gone the other way. People are getting really excited about the wage bill. Don't give him any more than 100 grand a week. Don't you dare give him more than 100 grand a week. Don't you dare give him more than... We want a mid-table wage bill. Yeah, INEOS, INEOS. We want a mid-table wage bill. Don't give him any more. I'm like, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. There is the old adage of you get what you pay for. I don't care if we have the biggest wage bill in the Premier League as long as we're at the top of it. That's my issue with the wage bill. We had a ridiculous wage bill for a team that couldn't get anywhere near the top 4. That's what was wrong. Paying crap players top wages. Pay top players top wages. I'm not bothered about the wage bill coming down. But there are people in our fan base who champion the fact that the wage bill's coming down. I really don't care if the wage bill stays high if you replace the shit with good. If you brought me Osman for 300 grand a week, I'd have done it. I'd have absolutely done it. You know? I'd have took, you know, I'm trying to think now. Like, there will be players that are on 250 grand a week. Get them at Man United, definitely. Get top players in. But obviously reducing the wage bill helps the club save money. Definitely, yeah, not going to deny that. They're scoring open goals doing the basics, says Joel, but it looks good to us because we've not done the basics for the last 15 years. Absolutely, and that's why I would praise it a little bit, because if you've lived in a house that's not clean and a shithole and you're used to it, and you come into that house one day after work and the living room's clean and fresh, you're going to go, ooh, wow, this is great. But then your brain should kick in and, well, why wasn't it clean in the first place? I've been at work all day. And you're not getting me on the sexist thing because it might be a man. Might be 2 men who live together. What's wrong with that? You know, and the person at home should keep it clean. If the other one's going to work, earning the money, the person at home shouldn't be sat on their arse making it messy. They should be giving it a hoover and a polish. It's the least you can ask when you've been at work all day. But no, seriously, like, I agree, Joel. I think we are seeing change and we're positive about it, quite rightly. But a lot of it is tap-ins, Michael Owen, FC. I'd like to see some changes that are a bit more Wayne Rooney. I'd like to see a few worldy changes. I'd like to see a few things that get me off my chair. You know, we are making moves in the right direction, but they're probably things any of us would have done. What I want to see is... Didn't see that coming. Bloody hell. That's a worldie, that is. I want more Rooney, less Owen. Less tap-ins, more worldies. That's where I'll really test INEOS. And I do it on a season-by-season basis anyway. Good point, Joel. Happy birthday to Harry Stevens. Lots of love, Mum and Dad, says Darren. Happy birthday, Harry, from the United Stand community. Tom McBride says, I'm still so angry we didn't sign Martinez. That's at least 15 points gone this season. We won't see Lammens until the FA Cup next year. I love the show. I've got a feeling. I got a feeling. No, I don't like that. Who sings that? I got a feeling inside my bones. I go electric when that sunshine in my pocket. I tell you what, you'll have in your pocket seawater when I push you in, twat. I hate that song. Why is it in my head? It reminds me of Ollie Murs, but it's not Ollie Murs. Troublemaker, yeah. Give me my ears trouble, mate. Turn it off. Have you got any artists that you absolutely, if they come on the radio, you'll turn it off? Oh, I've got a few. I'm like, get it off. Anyway, back to what Tom said. I've got a feeling that Lammens is going to be good. I don't like making those. It's Timberlake, is it? I got a feeling inside my bones. Timberlake. I actually quite like some of his music as well. Anyway, back to the show. I've got a feeling that Le Mans is going to be good. I would never sit here and say he's going to be a success. I've learnt my lesson over the years. You can't do that because you just don't know at this football club. Many a good player has come here and been ruined. I thought Sancho was going to be... I don't like talking about Sancho because we did that 2 summers. I was convinced Sancho was going to be... Remember, look, little quick story here because some of you might have forgotten. We wanted Sancho all summer. We didn't get him. And then we did it the next summer. So this was a transfer 2 years in the making. Not only that, we desperately needed a right winger. And we thought that's where he was going to go. And he never bloody played there. It was the biggest mug-off transfer ever. Because it took 2 summers to do it. And that whole time we were like, this is the right winger we need. And he never played on the bloody right wing. We got mugged off. Majorly. We basically spent £75 million on a left winger. When we already had 2. The song's by the Black Eyed Peas anyway. So... yeah, my point is that I don't do the whole, this signing's going to be a success. I mean, look, I put my hands up. I was right about Bruno. I did say Bruno needs to come to United and he'll make a massive impact, and he did. But I've also had a couple of clangers, which I don't want to name. Schweinsteiger, Rasmus, Sancho, Anthony. Yeah, I've had a few. But I back new signings. That's what I do. I do back the new signings. But I'm not going to sit here anymore and say this player's definitely going to be a success because you just don't know. This club can be the graveyard for any player. So, but I have a feeling that Le Mans is going to be good. I agree with you, Tom. I would like to have gone for Martinez, the experience, the aura, the Premier League proven, the leadership. I'd have been very happy with it. But I get the sense that the club got what they wanted. And we're never going to hear anything else. The club got what they wanted. Now, in many ways, I have said this before, but you know what cost Ten Hag his job? Removing De Gea. Something changed that summer. We had just won the Carabao Cup. We were in the top 4, and it was his first year. And he was ridiculously popular, and he was well respected, and he'd had a good first year. And he basically removed a lot of key players' mate, but also one of the most respected voices in the dressing room and somebody that everybody trusted. And they removed him in a way that was disrespectful. And a lot of key players felt you couldn't trust Ten Hag after that. They were like, he's not the guy we thought he was then. You know, they were very happy with the first year and they felt that they had a manager that they could trust and work with. And the way De Gea was treated shocked a lot of people in that dressing room because they were like, De Gea is just not that player. He's a model professional, he's a nice guy, and he's been absolutely shat on. And I think a lot of players, well, I know a lot of players after that lost faith in Ten Hag. And obviously, we finished 8th in the league. We scraped the FA Cup, and he was gone very, very quickly. So, Ten Hag basically fucked his career by doing what he did to De Gea and then signing Onana. The reason I'm telling you that story is because, obviously, it wouldn't be the first time that a goalkeeper's been quite a key decision. And we could have gone for Martinez. We've gone for Le Mans. But I have a feeling, Tom, that this is going to work out. I have a feeling it might go the way of De Gea, where there will be some teething problems, but I think he'll be a quick learner. And I think as well, and I've not seen Le Mans. I'm not interested in the clips. It's in the Belgian league. I don't give a shit. It's like, you know when I see Le Mans in the Belgian league and people are doing, tactical videos and TikToks, I'm like, can you come down my back garden with me and Seb and we'll look at the Worldies I score? And then I can play in the midfield for Man United. because basically the Belgian league ain't the Premier League. But what I have took note of is the tactical analysis on his skill set. I'm not interested in the clips. I'm interested in what type of a goalkeeper he is. And I don't think people realise what an upgrade it's going to be to see a goalkeeper that's got good technique, wrist action, does the basics well. We haven't got a goalkeeper that can do the basics. And every report I've read on Lammens is that he is very good on the basics of goalkeeping. That doesn't mean he's the next Courtois, but he's got the potential to become very, very good because he does the basics very, very well. He's an all-rounder. He's good with his feet. He's good in the air. And he's a good shot stopper. Onana, technically, is one of the worst shot stoppers I've seen in a Man United shirt. So I've got a feeling he's going to do well. But, you know, maybe we will be there in a few months' time saying, why didn't we get Martinez? A few years ago, we were going to sign Caicedo for 5 million. Then we pulled out and Brighton signed him. What went wrong? Do you think Favel solves this? Says Aldo. I just genuinely do not understand. I think the Caicedo point's a very good one. I genuinely do not understand why we're not doing more with Nice. Like, we could be buying people like Leon and loaning him to Nice as their left back. Because where is Leon? Like, Dorgu got dropped for the game or was injured for the game against Burnley, and Deleu's playing left wing back. So I just think, like, this Leon could be really, really good, but it's a prime example of what we're going to do, just have him hanging around the first team for a year. Like, get him playing football. It's exactly what Brighton did with Caicedo. They loaned him out, didn't they, for a year? Then they brought him back. Like, we need to do more of those types of deals, but we need to do better with their first year. It's never worked for us to bring in players and just have them around the first team. Get them playing bloody football, you know? We could do it with Obi as well. Obi as well, says Pirate. That just reminds me, actually. I know Beth spoke about it on the 2 o'clock show, so I'm not going to dwell on it for too long. But I did see the comment from the I don't know who he manages now, Tony Mowbray. He managed Sunderland with Ahmad there, and he was moaning about why is Ahmad playing as a right wing back when he should be playing as a 10, making things happen, not tracking their winger. And I thought, you know what? An opinion's like an arsehole, isn't it? Everyone's got one. But, like, you've never managed at a decent level, mate. Ruben Amorim is a Champions League manager and a title winner in the Portuguese league with Sporting. You've managed Sunderland and you had Ahmad on the wing in the Championship. Well done. Great. I really want to listen to you on where Ahmad should be playing. Most of our fans think Ahmad's better at right wing back. I actually personally believe he's better as a 10. But I couldn't really give a shit about an ex-Sunderland manager telling us where Ahmad should be playing. I mean, maybe get a job in the Premier League, mate, before you start telling us how Ruben Amorim should be playing. Look, honestly, I have a bit of concern about Ahmad. I mean, maybe we can talk about it on an 8 o'clock show this week. I have got concerns about Ahmad. I always preferred him as a 10. We've definitely got 2 better number 10s than him now, though. Mbeumo and Cunha are better than Ahmad. Ahmad might be better than them when he's 25, but at the moment, they're better than him. So Ahmad can't play in the position I want him to play. And a lot of people want him to play at right wing back. And you look at Amorim's system, utilising people like Kenda and other wingers, he does use wingers out wide. So this is his first season playing in this position as well. I think it's way too early to be starting to say that Ahmad's in the wrong position. But that's what I expect from basic British analysis. They don't actually do any homework. They don't realise that, you know, Amorim has used wingers wide in this wing-back position. And Amorim is only just starting to use Ahmad there. So, proof will be in the pudding. But I don't see any reason why it can't work. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time. I'm not saying you won't succeed, says Tom. Thank you very much. When life gives you Le Mans, says Connor. If you liked Whiplash, you'll enjoy The Wrestler. I do want to watch that one, Abraham, because I really did like wrestling at that time with the Texas Tornado, which is it's about his family, isn't it? Shahin says, I respect you a lot, but weren't you against Donnarumma's high wages? I agree, he probably wouldn't have come here anyway. I don't remember being against Donnarumma's high wages in the sense that I don't really remember saying anything about Donnarumma. I was very excited that we might go for Donnarumma. All I remember about his wages is that there was talk of about 300 grand a week. You can't pay that for a goalkeeper. Like, any goalkeeper on 150 grand a week needs to be one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Like, 150 grand a week is a very good wage for a goalkeeper. It's very rare for a goalkeeper to be on 200k a week or more. You're talking about Courtois, you're talking about Neuer, you're talking about Alisson. De Gea was on a ridiculous wage at Man United. I mean, look, I love David De Gea, but why was he on 350k a week? I mean, that will always, David De Gea was brilliant, but that wage was, and that's my point. Like, you can be a really good player and be on stupid money. So no, I wouldn't have been happy to give Donnarumma 300 grand a week because it's stupid money. I'd have given Osman 300 grand a week if he scored me 30 Premier League goals. But yeah, the talk of Donnarumma was like 300 grand a week. You can't give him 300 grand a week. You can't do the deal. But I only found that out about a week ago. So I think for a long time I was saying get Donnarumma, definitely. Yeah. But I wouldn't give a goalkeeper 200 grand a week at Man United at the moment. We're not winning the league. Too much money. Too much money. Hope that answered your question, Shaheen. Solid Blake, thank you for gifting a membership. Really appreciate it. Would Sancho not be pure profit after the +1, says Jacob? Yeah, but it's selling him, isn't it? I don't think Sancho has displayed any interest in getting a transfer fee for Man United. In fact, I think quite the opposite. So I don't know why we'd extend him. Thank you very good much for that, Jacob. Support from America. Do you think Lammens not playing till Christmas is smart, says Savage? No. No. I don't think putting Binder in goal is a good idea. If Binder is our goalkeeper till Christmas, how many goals is he going to cost us? He's already cost us a goal against Arsenal. So how many goals is he going to cost us? Look, Lammens might cost us. My point is, Binder will cost us games. He's already cost us one. Lammens will cost us games. The difference is, Binder's got no future. Lammens has. I'd rather have a goalkeeper that's learning and going to get better and better and better, making mistakes, than a goalkeeper that's making mistakes and got no future. That's why I'd throw Lammens in. Patrick Lynch, legend of the chat, with a super chat, says, INEOS being willing to negotiate is admirable, but when you publicly let everyone know that this one player is who we want, it negates any power you have. It's poor business strategy, says Patrick. I liked what somebody said before, Patrick, about there's not a lot of change in recruitment around there's not a lot of change around recruitment. I mean, I think we've definitely made strides in removing players, and that's the positive. I think in recruitment, I'd look at the summer and I'd go, really happy with Cunha, but it was a release clause. Really happy with Mbermo, but it did take 7 weeks and we paid exactly what Brentford wanted. Very happy with Seshko, but he was probably 5th choice. And Lammens, very happy, but it was on transfer deadline day. So I think that, recruitment still needs a bit of work. On the Baleba thing, to this day, I don't know what we were trying to do. We played that out publicly and didn't have the money. You know what? Somebody said to me, and it's an interesting theory, and I hope it's not true. They said, I don't understand what we were doing with Baleba. We leak it to David Ornstein. Romano gets involved. The whole world knows we're trying to sign Baleba. The fan base thinks we're going to sign him because when we do this, it means we're going to sign them. And then we walk away. And to this day, I don't really understand what the play was, unless it was just pure and utter incompetence that we thought that Brighton would let us have him for half price. And this person said to me, what if the play was Baleba goes on strike? Baleba goes on strike and refuses to play, and Brighton have to take a low price. And I said, logically, it makes sense, but I wouldn't want Baleba anywhere near Man United if he did that. I don't want players that go on strike, because 3 years later they're doing it here to go to Real Madrid. I don't want that, but I mean, I don't know. It might be unfair. And anyway, at least he didn't do it. Anyway, T says, obviously as fans, we want our teams to be successful and dominant, but is there a part of you or United fans that enjoy being an underdog side at the moment? Oh, God, no. No. Trust me, when you're walking out every week with Roy Keane leading your team and you've got people like Beckham and Scholes and all that lot walking down the tunnel, there's no greater feeling than thinking we're going to win today and we might win 3 or 4-0 and play brilliant football. It was great. I loved it. And I don't think being an underdog is great. I really don't. I just don't. But I nearly didn't say it, but I'm going to say it. I had a bit of a premonition today. And it absolutely came from nowhere. I'm going to share it with you. I think we're going to beat Chelsea at Old Trafford. I've just got a feeling we're going to beat Chelsea. I don't know what's going to happen in the Manchester derby, but I think we're going to beat Chelsea. I've just got this feeling. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Don't go and bet your mortgage on it. But I've got a feeling we'll beat Chelsea at Old Trafford a week on Saturday. We are good against good teams. We should have beat Arsenal at Old Trafford 3 weeks ago. So I just got a feeling we're going to beat Chelsea. Remember that. Thanks everyone for watching. Is there a bit of an after show? Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe as always. I've sort of caught myself on the hop, really, for an after show today. You might remember years ago, I used to do walking with Goldbridge. And I used to have a little dog with me. If anyone can remember the name of the dog, I'll give you a point. And I'm trying to think how many years ago it was. So, really, that dog's going to get put down this week. It's very sad. We've had it from... Probably had it about 9 years. And it was my grand's dog. And when she died, we had it. And it's always seemed like quite an old dog, but it had a fit for about 5 minutes on Saturday. No, for like last Friday. And we took it to the vet. And I didn't think it was going to come back from the vet, but it has come back from the vet. And the vet said, you know, these things can sort of happen, but over the weekend and today, it's just, you can just tell it's not right. And I think one of the great things about animals is that you can put them down. I mean, don't put them down because they didn't eat their dinner or they pissed on your slippers. But like when you can see that they're suffering, you can, you know, be merciful. And I just think it's probably going to happen. And I know it's only a dog, but I've always grown up with dogs. I mean, I wasn't like those bloody people from Rome. I wasn't brought up by dogs, but I've always had dogs. And they're very, very loyal creatures, dogs. And it's just very sad because they're around your family for so long. And then, you know, it's just, I just know it's coming to the end. But it used to be on Walking with Goldbridge, and I called the dog Robbie, but it's actually a girl. I just never told the real name because it's a bit, well, it wouldn't have been... Robbie sounded a lot better when it was running off in the fields behind me. The real name is Tallulah, which wouldn't have sounded as good. But yeah, so yeah, just a bit... Just been going through the motions a bit today, you know. Just, you know, that's what you do, innit? But yeah, I know it's only an animal, and I think, you know, she's had a good innings. She must be about 190 in dog years, but it's still sad because they're part of your family, aren't they? And we have got other dogs, but that's not the point, you know. Actually, I remember my first dog that I really liked getting put down. And it was a bull mastiff dog, and it was called Tara. And they don't live particularly long anyway. I think they live till they're about 9, but she was only 5, and she got cancer and she got put down. And I think my mum told me the night before that she was going to go to the vets, and the tests were going to come back, and if it was cancer, they were going to have her put down. And I remember praying at about 8 years of age, so I'd have been around Seb's age. I remember praying to God, and I said, if my dog gets put down tomorrow, I don't believe in you, and I never pray again, and this, that, and the other. And anyway, the dog got put down, and I've been an atheist ever since. No, I still believed in Christmas, but Yeah, I think having pets is a good thing to be brought up around, because I think it normally is. It is Robbie, you and Gordon. Thank you. I think it introduces you at a young age to mortality, and grief. So yeah, it is sad, but it's life, isn't it? As I always say, life. We're here for a good time, not a long time, and that's why you should appreciate those walks where you're carefree and you think, oh, nothing ever lasts forever. Wraith says, dog ownership 101. Don't name your dog until you've asked yourself if you're prepared to shout it. Well, the thing is, I inherited the dog from my gran. So, and also that, to be honest, selfishly, that sort of bothers me as well, because I was really close to my gran. And she was in like I do the charity streams every November, because a friend of mine died of cancer and my gran died of cancer very close together just before that Christmas. So I do a charity stream every November for the Marie Curie Centre, which helps people with terminal illness. And many of you have contributed to that, and hopefully you will do again this year. But in the hospice, and I knew she was going to die, she said to my eldest daughter, please look after the dog, because she loved that dog. And I just feel like now that dog's going to get put down, it's sort of like a connection to my gran, who's been dead for years, but it just, it's that continuity, isn't it? Yeah. Life is the name of the game, and I want to play the game with you. What a game to play. That's what I always try and tell myself. Like, obviously there's sad parts of life, but there's so much good as well. Like, if somebody said to me, if it all ended tomorrow and somebody said, would you play the game again? Oh, give me the dice. Let's go. It's a great game. But it's a privilege. It's a gift. And, you can't love something and then not grieve it when it goes. That's why they say better to love and lost than not to love at all. To know love, you've got to know loss. Unless you're just really selfish and love yourself. And then you won't grieve yourself because you'll be dead. Bit like Piers Morgan. Just loves himself, doesn't he? No, I'm only joking. He probably does love other people. He loves the sound of his own bloody voice, that's for true. It was Black Eyed Peas, yeah, horrible song. I don't know whether there's a Black Eyed Peas song I like. I like will.i.am on Standing in the Hall of Fame script. I like that. But I don't think Black Eyed Peas are my cup of tea in relation to their music. I quite like that one. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate and dance for free. One more time. I do actually like that. There you go. I found a song that they did that's like. I just realised I don't think they do that. They have got a song a little bit like that. They've got a song that's a little bit like that. That's Daft Punk, says Triggered. On a lighter note, Mark Prattman's gone to Turkey. Yeah. No, that's the song they do is I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Rubbish. Daft Punk song's way better. Way better. No, I don't think there's a Black Eyed Peas song I like. Would you ever go and see Ollie Murs in concert? No. I think I'd be absolutely furious. I'd have to be paid to do it. I would be furious. I tell you what, that'd make a great live stream. Me in a box, not a real box. I'd have to be in one of those private boxes, but put a camera on me watching Ollie Murs do it in concert. That would be hilarious, because I would just be my face. Look at his face. He's fuming. He's absolutely fuming. Can you imagine him pissing about, doing little breakdancing? Woo! Average age of the audience, 90. I mean, who buys that? Who is buying that? I just, you know what? Actually, fair play to him. Realistically, if you can have multi-million selling albums as Ollie Murs, everybody's got a chance. Everybody's got a chance. Never stop believing. Thanks everyone for watching. That cheered me up a little bit. Have a great evening, day, whatever you're doing, and get your comments in, of course. What day is it tomorrow? It's Tuesday. When's the chart show back? That's the big thing. The chart show, if you don't know what it is, we started this a few years ago. Weekly top 10 Man United players. They can move up and down based on performance. Obviously, some people don't even get in the top 10. That's shameful. Now, the interesting thing is, when we did it, I knew a couple of players who are no longer here. Right, we didn't do it with Rasmus, so shut up. Who used to mention it. And I was like, good. It might give him a kick up the arse because it's embarrassing if you're not in the top 10. But the feedback I got was, well, not everyone can be in the top 10 because there's 11 players. And I'm like, don't make bloody excuses. You should be in the bloody top 10. So this has a twist this year because it's more, I have an opinion, but it is driven by you. If you figure it out, you'll know how we've done it. So the top 10 is dictated more by you than it is by me. That's all I'm going to say. So I don't know when I'm going to drop it, though, because we've got a busy week. It might be... I might drop it tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to it. Normally it's going to be a weekly thing, but we weren't quite ready, so we did, because of the transfer window, so we've basically done the first 3 weeks. But from now on, it'll be every week. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Take care. Stay safe. I'll speak to you on in a bit.